Suresh Prabhu, sir, the man who's been giving new definitions to the leadership of the country. Sir, thanks a lot for joining with us. It has definitely been a real pleasure for Vivekananda Global University to welcome you, sir, and thank you for accepting our invitation. So we have amongst us an audience of approximately 2,000 people who are students, young students from the colleges, their parents, academicians, faculty positions, management people from various education institutes of Rajasthan, and all the people, your fans and favorites, wanting to just listen to you on a topic which I'm sure you would be the best man to answer, knowledge-based industries for India. Thanks a lot, sir. Thank you for joining with us here. Yes, friends, Suresh Prabhuji, an FCA, I would say a chartered accountant by an academic qualification, a rank holder in the Inter-CA examination, a PhD presently pursuing with climate change issues in relation to energy and environment, and holding cabinet ministry posts with a lot of technical sectors in the country, has been a dynamic man all across, right from commerce, finance, to sciences, and a perfect leader to a new India. Let us listen from the man himself, his input on the knowledge-based industries. Off to you, Suresh, sir.
I just saw that you're speaking from Udupi, and the university is located in Jaipur. And I don't know how many of us were tuning in this program, located in different parts of the world, maybe, but definitely from India. And that shows that the power of knowledge. First, the urge for knowledge. That's why you joined the university. Then, the knowledge which has made it possible that we can connect to each other despite the fact they are right now in different locations, but still we can be on the same platform without being physically there. And why we are there today is because why we are away from each other and not in the same place. Because of a big challenge that all of us are facing from still not so known virus, and all struggling for knowledge to find out how can we get over this? How can we ever be held captive, the 7.3 billion people of the world, by something which cannot even be seen, something which is invisible, but yet it is very strong, very effective, which is creating so much of disruption. Just imagine a country like United States, which today has the highest number of infections and deaths, and that shows the power of a medical league, or rather a power of a virus, power of a small little thing which can actually bring whole world to the knees. And that shows that what happens with a lack of knowledge. The lack of knowing about the virus, the inability of developing a right vaccine. Of course, it will happen, I'm sure, in the next few months. But right now, we couldn't create the world. I'm not talking about you and me or India, but whole world, 7.3 billion people. The combined might of so-called as Homo sapiens, the human beings who thought they can control anything. We thought that is moon, it's just here. We can go and get it whenever we want. We can land it there whenever we want. while we are thinking of going and capturing rest of the big canvas that we have in front of us, because we thought we captured this planet. World is in our hand. Now we can go and capture rest of the world, rest of the creation. But today we know that we hardly know much, and we have to accept that reality, that there are certain things on which we have no control, at least for the time being. And that brings us to a very interesting thinking. How we move in the world in future. And Shweta, thank you for giving this background. And thank you, Sumani, for inviting me. I really appreciate this university's motto. Vivekananda Global University is basically probably was designed. Very interesting idea, I presume it. One, we started in the name of one of the greatest saints on this planet, Swami Vivekananda. It's very interesting that we worship him by that name. But was he born as Vivekananda? We just celebrated recently Buddha Jayanti. Was Buddha born as Buddha? What is that journey from being Narayana to Vivekananda? What is that took Siddharth, Prince Siddharth, from becoming Buddha? And interestingly, both said that you can be not only what I am, but much more than what I am. Gautam said that this is a state of mind. You can reach this, but you cannot reach it overnight by going and Googling, how do I become Gautam Buddha, and then become Gautam Buddha tomorrow. Or can I not put up myself a title that I am Gautam Buddha from tomorrow? My letter has been changed, my business cards need to be reprinted. But your university said Vivekananda Global University. Why? Again, I presume. Because thought of Vivekananda is a global thought. This is not just confined to only people living in India, and that's what he went to Chicago. And today, you are a right forum for you to think about this knowledge-based industries. What changed Narendra to Vivekananda? Knowledge. He had something through a process, and he was lucky to have a guru like none other than great Ramakrishna Paramahansa. But his blessings, of course, helped Swamiji to become Vivekananda. But more importantly, his quest for knowledge made him that. That was the knowledge of different kind. Knowledge how to live this world, how to live happily, how to realize the true potential of your own soul. Why so put into this body? He searched and he got a final answer. Today, we are thinking differently, but working on the same thought. That world is struggling today because it has no knowledge about the virus. Can we make a world a place which can be free from all viruses known today to be born tomorrow? Viruses which will be not just today, some virus like corona is not well, but there virus that could be born tomorrow, which we don't have knowledge today. Can we do that? And that's what I think. I never prepared a speech, actually. I don't know why I'm saying like this. I never prepared a speech incident. But I'm just saying, can you bring this typical thought into making the tomorrow's industrial world? Can you build industries around the idea of making human life better? I just told you. I just said that we have lack of knowledge. And that's why we're facing this problem. And also that you cannot Google the thought of how to become Buddha and Buddha, right? Can we still, though said it, is that it's not a science? You can Vipassana to not to become Buddha, but start walking on the path of becoming Buddha. And you could probably be one. Same way, you could be like Vivekananda, but there's a science of becoming that. There's of course an evolution, there's of course a blessing of Guru, but still there is a path. Even Gautam Buddha, again, I just said it, but I'm repeating. He had a disciple called Ananda. And he used to tell him, just follow this and you could be that. Now let us imagine, can we create tomorrow's industry and convert a knowledge as a product? Can you make a way of life designed in a manner that will be bereft from today's problems? Will not that be the right lesson to be learned from this isolation? We, coming to these modern times and coming down from such a high level of Swamiji, Vivekananda to a normal plane, why is the industries developed? It is an economic activity. But economic activity helps in creating jobs, providing livelihood, satisfying our day-to-day needs, and much more. Can we therefore, rather than creating an industrial product which can harm people over a period of time, like a toxic food, a toxic drink, and make a product which will create economic activity, will create jobs, which will help people to fulfill their aspirations through a material world. There's nothing wrong in that. In fact, Swami Vivekananda, in the first few days after he met Ramakrishna Paramahansa, because his family was in distress. They didn't have a proper means of living and providing for their basic necessities. And his guru, Ramakrishna Paramahansa, told him, go and pray to the goddess, she'll give you whatever you want. She'll solve the problem. But Swamiji went there to pray for the same, seeking the same blessing, but couldn't speak that because he was designed for something else. But the sufferings of his family were there. Can we therefore prepare an economic model wherein industrial activity could be designed in such a way that it satisfies the basic needs of people and remove their unhappiness on that count? Happiness is a very different connotation, very huge idea. If I have more money, I could be more unhappy than the person who had no money. But that doesn't mean you should, to get happiness, everybody should be removed from money. That's not a right solution. But can we design an economic activity, industrial activity, which will create concepts, ideas, and sell them in a way that you can be bereft of your product? In India, our Prime Minister Modi provided medicines to large number of countries, including United States, including Europe, the countries which always say that they are superpowers. But even like paracetamol, which we sell as a generic product, was not available there. They produce it and sell it in large quantity. So over a period of time, India has emerged as a capital for producing. First, we are berated by some other people by saying India is good in reverse engineering. That means those patents which go out of health because of the expiry of the initial right protection, by the TRIPS, TRIPS agreement, trade-related intellectual property right regime. Under that, there is a protection for a particular innovation. When that goes, you can use it. So they said that we are using it by doing reverse engineering. So they were also trying to put restriction by saying product patent to process patent, because we are changing the process. That besides, India has emerged as a capital for generic products. Is it not a knowledge-based industry? We therefore could become the next generation knowledge-based industrial base for the world. How do you do it? Knowledge must drive such activity. For everything there is a knowledge. In fact, I always frown upon the term when somebody says, he's a thinker. I say, what do you mean by thinker? Of course, Aristotle was a thinker. There have been thinkers in our India. J. Krishnamurti was a great thinker. Thinkers in India, all over the world. Big thinkers were known, and so many. But does it mean that thinking is a prerogative of some people? Everybody thinks. Same knowledge drives industry anyway. But now we are talking about, I'm just thinking, that's why probably we make knowledge and wisdom join hands together. Can you use knowledge effectively? Because even if you use knowledge to prepare the most potent, disastrous bomb, that also needs knowledge. That's also knowledge-based industry. But should we create a knowledge-based industry to destroy the world? Or should we create knowledge-based industry to make the world a better place? So like in medicines, Medicare, can you not create products for future, which will help people to live happily. They will enjoy wearing a very nice shirt which is made out of natural fiber, very well designed, but will not create any other problem. Like it will be logically biodegradable. So it will not create a print on the planet of some kind. Should we get a product which will help people from avoiding their future diseases? Is it possible? There's already a huge science which is developing around this area, which is called genomics. We are born. I'm born as Suresh Prabhu. She's born as Sweta. He's born as Mr. Motwani. We are born by different names, different family backgrounds. So there is something common, like both of us have hands, eyes, ears, that is common. But that's what is really common. But there is something which is making you and me different from each other. Because we are born with genes. Just imagine a bird in this particular time of the year is busy making a nest. I would say birds because they normally in a couple, they're together, at least most of them, if not all. They go to a university like yours to study architecture, engineering, to design a nest, to build a nest, and they design such a fabulous way that they factor in there could be a storm. So when I'm building my nest on a tree, even a storm will not disturb it. He doesn't try to hide it from a predator. Where do you get all this knowledge? They don't go to school. And the birds don't even live with their parents or the mother. They are on their own. Where do they acquire the knowledge? That comes from the genes. So the science that we are studying today in the world, which has advanced quite a bit, is called genomics, which will be, I told you about pharmaceuticals, and that's why I'm just expanding it, saying when you are born with certain knowledge which is acquired through genes, you have a evidence. Abhimanyu, in the womb, knew about Chakravyuha, but only, unfortunately, half of it, how to enter and not to exit. Genomics is a knowledge-based industry. It is going to transform our thinking on medicines, Medicare. It will help you to understand the possible birth of a disease in your body because you are born with particular genes. It's called, so therefore today we give curative medicine. I have a headache, you give me medicine. Another branch, again originated in India, we should be proud of it, which prevents it. So you take this, so you have preventive medicine. It will help you to prevent a disease from taking place anyway. Not all, but at least some of the diseases. But now we are moving into a direction of predictive medicines. That means you predict today that you may have the disease, therefore you take all the corrective steps. It's a very famous example of film star Angelina Jolie, who felt that she may have a breast cancer. She didn't have. So she performed the surgery before that to prevent it from coming. Why? Because of genomics. So genomics is going to be the new area. Can we therefore build industries of tomorrow? Can we use the modern technology known to us today? It's not known to us a few years ago. Artificial intelligence. Of course, now when I'm saying this, I also must qualify my own views on artificial intelligence. You must embrace it, welcome it, but also look at ethical side of this new technology. embrace technologies because you cannot prevent it. I keep saying this all the time, that can I prevent air from coming inside just by closing the door? Air is there. You cannot prevent it by just shutting the door. Same thing, you cannot prevent a technology from coming in today because of other technologies, like the one that is helping me and you to talk to each other. The same technology will prevent not allowing the technology to come in. Because you can download it from anywhere, you can learn from somewhere, you'll know about the technology. So therefore, you must use artificial intelligence, you must use blockchain, you must use big data. You must use all of that. Internet of Things, where internet will be connected to each other. When I'm traveling in my car, the moment I decide to enter my car and I pick up my keys, and if the key has a sensor, it automatically open the door for the car. The moment I enter the car and I put on my GPS that I want to go home, it will automatically alert my home, so my home door will be open. And also more alerts, my even cooking will start, so that when I go home, I get a very warm cup of tea or coffee. So all of this is Internet of Things. What I'm saying is, based on these technologies, we must build tomorrow's world. And that is knowledge-based industry should be. But when I'm saying knowledge-based industries, it should not be confined only to industry per se. It's not just manufacturing. I'm saying, can we not use these technologies for transforming other sectors of India's economy, or over a period of world's economy? I'm talking about India to begin with. Like Swamiji was born in India, so it's thought is India, but he gave it to the whole world. It was a gift to the world. So is Buddha. Though was born in Lumini, but he was born. People born in other country. I say yes, but he was born there as Siddharth, but he was born as Buddha in India. Of course, this country barrier don't matter. I have respect for very own place and respect it, but I'm just saying the thought of Buddha today, though born in India, is accepted by almost whole world, and Swamiji's thought, and I wish more people follow Swamiji's thought, they will be happier. But same way in India, can use modern technologies for transforming sectors like agriculture, wherein farmer will get more without degrading land. In fact, you cannot produce from land if the land has no fertility. Otherwise, your university is Rajasthan. Rajasthan is the desert state of India. So if you tell farmers, why don't you go and farm in a desert, either in Rajasthan or in Gujarat, what would they say? Just look at your face and may not even answer the question. Why? Because land alone cannot produce. But the deserts can produce. Then the Middle Eastern countries would not be exporting oil but imported food because they have so much of land. So that's all desert land. So desert land alone cannot produce food, but fertility land can produce food. And fertility comes with many things, but topsoil. Can we transform agriculture without damaging the topsoil? By increasing the productivity without sacrificing with fertility? Can productivity and fertility go hand in hand? Can we use only such water in quantity which will not create salinity in the land? And which is a better place than Rajasthan to understand the use and water and land? Rajasthan always has been deficient in the rainfall, but not suffered the ill effect of it because they knew water management, traditional knowledge. So tomorrow's agriculture can be based on knowledge which ensure that a nature given gift will not be squandered away by indiscriminate use of the resources. Can we use the technology for that? That's the knowledge-based industry. Can we use knowledge into your service sector? Can we transform service delivery through knowledge-based ideas, knowledge-based business model? I think, I'm sorry, it's 3:30 already, half an hour, and I have to go into other program. I don't know, thank you actually, because I never prepared, motivated me to speak on some ideas. We need to, I just thought few ideas I just said. One day, I think I just offered you my own thinking, but you are far more enlightened than I am. When you have such a great faculty, very good campus, very good people working with you, I'm sure all of you will join hands and think about creating based on the knowledge. But again, opinion, knowledge-based industries with wisdom in integral part of it. Knowledge and wisdom are two things, different things. Can we therefore marry knowledge and wisdom and create a modern India? As Prime Minister says, we want to build up a new India, self-reliant India, आत्मनिर्भर. क्या ये आत्मनिर्भर पे उसकी निर्भर तरह के ज्ञान के आधार पर बने जिसमें हमारी में सही रास्ता भी निकले, जो जनता के लाभ में भी हो, तो साथ ही किसी को उसका नुकसान न हो. I think if you can do that, I think we'll be able to achieve a lot more. So I really want to thank Shweta for doing this. Is Associate Dean. You are in Jaipur, or I saw you are in Udupi. I just saw when earlier the name was showing, but I am now can see Associate Dean.
Yes,
so
sir.
Really,
Development, Vivekananda Global University.
But I am very happy that I can speak to such an enlightened audience like yourself. I really appreciate the opportunity. And I could never come to your university, be as enlightened as you are. But I am very happy that at least I got the opportunity to interact with the great talent that is there in this university. Let this talent be harnessed in a manner that made a Swami Vivekananda. I hope you all start by walking on the same path. Not necessarily everybody has to be Swamiji, but be enlightened like him and change the world for better. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, sir. Thank you for your insightful information. It was really, I would say mesmerizing to hear you from Vivekananda ji to Angelina Jolie. And I'm sure our students would have enjoyed the diversity that you've provided to us. We have a few questions. Rather, I would say, sir, we have a lot of questions coming in from the audience. If you allow, I just wanted to put two to you because we have people from all across the country who've been after us to question a few things to you. The first we have from YouTube Live, sir. We have Shashwat Tripathi ji wanting to know how can India and the research education in India be a base for a future of the India? As you said, knowledge industries can take it forward. Something that you could put to us for the education systems or the academic institutes where innovation, research can be collaborated with education for a better India.
See, actually, education is the foundation of transformation. Education is definitely acquired in universities, and nowadays during lockdown on online basis, not necessarily by going physically into the campus, but education is the foundation. But there is one very interesting line between providing regimented education and igniting some sort of a flame within you through education. The flame could be of acquiring more knowledge different way. What Swamiji finally, I don't think Ramakrishna Paramo spent that much time telling him about everything. In fact, one day Swamiji got a divine opening of his mind when Ramakrishna Paramos was on the upper floor. And he just went, Swamiji, without a physical presence of his guru, went into trance. So why I'm saying this is what he became Swamiji, he acquired something on his own through his devotion, through a process. So education in modern times should be igniting that idea in your mind, but not regimenting them. Like if we've done the same thing, it's good because something has universal knowledge has to be acquired. But you take him to a point where from there he can differently. He can bring new vision to that idea. And that's what is the role of education. And I think we should transform it on that basis. Education should be a trigger for opening your mind to a possibility of doing many more things. Helping you to go there, but not everything. Like if I tell my child, anything you need to do anything, ask me. Am I doing service to my child or I can only tell him, see, you want to go to this place, you can go like this, or that, and to go there, it's up to you. Then he'll discuss ideas. It should be the role of education. Take a person to a particular point. From there, he should be able to think on his own and explore new ideas. Not only explore ideas into your mind so that we can bring about it. Thank you.
Very, very true, sir. I think this would be a big takeaway for all of us as faculties and students both, that igniting the inner soul towards innovation is the true learning and which we at universities must be doing. So one last question which all of us want to hear from you is your personal take of India after COVID-19. We have even Soumya Brata Nath on Facebook asking that question. The future of academician, this uncertain situation of COVID-19, people are really worried. Sir, what is your personal take, or you would like to suggest to the country, us as educators, as students, as part of academics, what is something that we should really be looking forward to?
As a overall, or we're talking about looking forward to?
Yes, sir. So the education system, the academicians, the students, and our institutes, for that matter, after COVID-19.
See, basically, some people are saying, or rather, there is an apprehension in the minds of some people that post-COVID-19, what happens to the university education? Is that what you want to know?
Yes, sir.
Or this is something people are saying, will the people go to university or somebody will go on online?
True.
Let me tell you. And that day, back, somebody had asked me, I keep doing webinars all the time. So somebody asked me this question. I will tell you, there is nothing that will take away from a brick and mortar educational format. Online education is not today and tomorrow. It happened yesterday. It's there for a while. But still people want, you can do online courses even on Harvard.
Yes.
Oxford, Cambridge, but still people want to go to Oxford and Cambridge. They are there for few centuries. Why? Because there is something more to education than just online. Actually, there is no need for Swamiji to go and meet Ramakrishna Paramahansa in person. But he's still been there. Because in-person interaction with a faculty and student is very important. It is also very important that when you go there, you study in a particular environment and a particular atmosphere. So this makes a difference. So I don't think these people are those who are prophets of doom for university kind of education. I don't think it will happen. There will be, you will prosper. But that doesn't mean also will happen automatically. We'll have to put in extra effort, attract students because of certain knowledge. So that's again going to be a knowledge base. I will talk about service sector. Also, it should be driven by knowledge. So university, just by putting a name, I am a university, doesn't become provider of knowledge. Although I can say I am a saint, I put on my body, I come make me a saint. But real saints don't even put anything that they are saints. In fact, they want to be completely remaining impossible. So I am saying universities also will have to offer that extra edge of knowledge to people to attract students. If you do that, there will be far better days for all universities. And I'm sure one of that university will be the Vivekananda Global University. So all the best to you.
Thanks a lot, sir. That was really, really great. And I'm sure this is going to reinstigate energy into our fraternity, that we would be having a big faith that sir said so, that we would be shining and we must go on with the same spirit. Thanks a lot for that, sir. One last one, which comes from our students, very short and crisp. One of my students just asked me, how can he manage so much with managing so many futuristic things going on in his mind, and then doing a PhD, and then coming from a finance background, and then even meeting us and taking us as a leader forward, motivating all of us. How does he manage all that? So sir, your guru mantra for our students the best you could good.
You want an honest answer? I'll tell you, I don't know. Honestly. But I will tell you something. But the ability of a human mind is enormous. You know when you buy a computer or any new gadget, it has a capacity. So much data it can store, so many GB, so many whatever. A human mind has no such capacity. We are born with unlimited capacity. In fact, again, I'm sorry, but I'm talking about Vivekananda again because Vivekananda was asked, I'll end with this. Very interesting. He was asked, Swamiji, that you all talk about destiny, and destiny helps you to go up to a particular level. Are you not creating people? You are talking about karma. So you are actually not creating karma yogis, but you are actually disincentivizing people from working. You are saying it is all in destiny, why should I work? Swamiji told him, he gave an example. He said, look at a small pasture where there is a grass and there is a sheep which is tied to a tree with a rope. So sheep can just sit down and say, I can see very clearly there is a rope which is tied around my neck, so I cannot do anything. So let it just sit down and still eat a little bit grass. It gets up, start walking, can definitely walk longer than where they're sitting, but not necessarily go out of the pasture. So the destiny will not allow you to go beyond a point, but will allow you to go much beyond what you are thinking today, because your thinking is constrained by thinking that I cannot do anything. What can I do? Nothing. I'm born to poor families. I have this inability, so I cannot do anything. But there are examples of people achieving some extraordinary things despite all these adversities. That is the power of mind. They wanted to do more. So please, how to do it? And the knowledge is put an effort. When you put an effort, you can walk 5 steps. After you reach 5 steps, you can say, I was thinking I cannot walk anything, but I could stop 5. You can walk 50. But doesn't mean you can walk 10,000 maybe, because that's your destiny. Possible. But to know what's your limit of your destiny, you must make an effort. And that's the Karma Yoga. Try to put in best effort possible. Use knowledge, and knowledge comes with effort. Knowledge is not just ready-made, and that's why the university's role. Why you take 4 years to acquire a degree? Why you get 3-4 years to get PhD? Another 4-5 years to get postdoctorate? Because you acquire knowledge through a lot of effort. Effort is the most important thing. And efforts and knowledge together, perseverance and sincere genuine will make that happen. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, sir. That was really, I'm sure, words to be taken back home with. And we would keep remembering your words again and again for the university to keep forwardly moving. And I'm sure we'll make you very proud one day. With that, I would request the CEO of Vivekananda Global University, sir. Here, I'm really elated to share that we have a very young CEO who does follow your words and is really motivating all of us to move ahead and take up such opportunities to train and teach the new generation. We have our CEO, Omkar Bagaria ji, who wanted to thank you personally for being with us.
Thank you so much, sir, for your enlightening words. I hope all the viewers, our students, our faculty members, and all will take your words in letter and spirit, and we will make a Atmanirbhar India very soon. Thank you so much, sir. I know it was at very short notice that we have contacted you, and from your valuable time you came and joined us. I personally have learned a lot, and the way you have explained Vivekananda and education, I think that was a wonderful talk. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.